Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello and welcome back to Combat Sports UK. I'm Pedro McCorry, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Veronica Hardy, coming off the win against Juliana Miller at UFC 286. How are you doing today?
All good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And obviously, this was your first fight in 3 years. Were there any added nerves compared to prior UFC fights coming in after 3 years absent?
Um, you know what? I think I felt less nerves than in previous fights because I felt more prepared for the fight. I felt like I had a really good training camp where there was a lot of structure to it. There was a structure to the way I was approaching the fight, the techniques that I was going to use. So that really helped for me to maintain calm, even though it was a long layoff.
And you left the sport for 3 years due to concussions, right? At the point that you left, if I may ask, how many concussions had you had at that point?
I think I had four, but
Okay.
they were all within a month, and they were what was it? I think October of 2019 that I had all of them, and yeah, it was just because I didn't know that they were concussions. I didn't know what was going on really, so I kept trying to train through them. And if you don't let yourself heal, you're more likely, and it's a lot easier for you to get the next one. And based on that, then I had to continue training because I had a fight coming up, and it was just a giant disaster that prolonged the process a lot more than obviously it should have.
So in your absence, then were you still training, or was it more recovering and finding something else to do, maybe?
Well, in the beginning, I was trying to train, and I was trying to train through the injury, and it was just getting worse, and it got to the point where any sort of exercise would be too much. Like somebody would have a cologne on and it would just set me off, or there were so many tiny things that would set me off to a giant migraine for the
Hmm.
entire day, and it would surpass to the other one. So I did have to take a full break from all sorts of training. It took me a while to get there because I was a bit stubborn, and I really wanted to continue and to train and be able to take a short notice fight if one came up, even with how I was feeling. So I did take about 8 months, or like 6 months to 8 months off, which was during the entire pandemic. And then I started to go back to the gym, and there was Jack and Joe Young there, which I was able to train with, and they were just so careful. They come from a judo background, and they were able to help me not only with holes in my game that I was missing and was lacking, but also I knew that they were very careful, and they knew exactly what was going on, and worked with me based on that, which helped build my confidence back up as well.
And in the absence, did you pick up any new hobbies, any fun things that you still do now?
Mm, Lego.
Yeah.
Lego is yeah, because like the first time I tried to build Lego, I think it was like December of 2019 or something like that. Dad had bought me a set, and it was like a tiny Batman, and I built it, and it was my first set, and it was awesome, but I didn't build anything again until we got back from Brasilia and start a pandemic. Oh, he still has so many boxes in the house unbuilt. I'm just like, oh, these are huge sets. I'm gonna need to take like 2 weeks off just to finish these.
And how would that Lego collection compare to the likes of, Brandon Moreno's crazy Lego collection?
Dan's a bit older than Brandon, so he has he has a bit more years of collecting Lego, so he needs to calm down. No, but you know who else has a really good one? Brad Pickett.
Brad Pickett. Wow.
Brad
Really? I
Pickett,
wouldn't
yeah, he
expect
has
him
a
to have a
great
Lego collection.
yeah, he has a great Lego collection.
That's interesting. I think a lot of fighters like Lego because it's like stimulating, right? It's stimulating to build and focus on. I find it interesting that I think more and more fighters are saying, I like Lego, and people see it as like a childish thing, but I think it's for all ages, right?
Children can't afford Lego sets. The price of those things. What child with their pocket money is gonna go afford a 2,000 to like 200 pound Lego set? No, but it was interesting also because I was speaking to a therapist for the concussion and stuff like that, and they recommended that I build Lego for it. They said it
Mm.
was cognitively it would really help me, recover, and it was just great for therapy. So that was an added benefit to playing children's toys.
And getting back to the fight, do you think your experience in the big show weighed in over Juliana Miller? Obviously, she was coming off the Ultimate Fighter, but she hadn't made her official UFC debut. Do you think your experience helped you in that fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it was only my experience. I think it was the fact that I had made a lot of changes, and
Yeah.
I had Dan there to help me with everything that was strategy, that was training, and I think that's what actually played the biggest role. If I would have come fighting like I was 3 years ago, it wouldn't have really made a difference, my experience level in comparison to her. I feel like I would have lost.
And you mentioned Dan Hardy, and in the training camp, are you someone who watches a lot of film? And obviously, Dan must be a really great help because he's so good at breaking down fights. I mean, you must have had like you've probably seen every second of Juliana Miller's fights, right? Like 50 times.
Yeah, just about that. And in like a big screen, a small screen, all sorts of different sizes. Um, but yeah, luckily because I started commentating as well. I started commentating for Aries, and
Yeah.
that was another initiative, like to start watching more fights and different fighters, and just between that, doing the research and becoming just I guess more efficient in what I'm looking for. And also we do the pigs podcast. So there I'm watching a lot of fighters and a lot of techniques that I think about in adding and implementing the game. So being able to watch them as well myself gives me a better like talking with Dan. So I know what questions to ask and what I'm seeing and how he feels like it can be incorporated into my game.
And the head kick you landed, I believe it was in round three. I think it was the loudest head kick I've ever heard. I mean, how I thought her skull cracked. Like it sounded like you smacked her with a baseball bat. And was that something that was in the game plan? Go for the head kick? Because I believe Dan shouted it and then you landed it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was that, but he did tell me to sell to like fake that, with my hands a bit before I threw it. So I think if I would have done that, like her hand would have been guarded and it would have probably had a better result next time. Next time.
Yeah, right. There's always next time. And talking about next time, is there a timeline for you when you want to get back in there?
Well, I'm looking to compete again in September. I heard that they're
Okay.
coming back to France and they're going to do another show in Paris. So that's somewhere that I go every 6 weeks for commentary. So it'll be, it'd be great to be able to compete there as well.
And you mentioned the commentary with Aries. How long have you been doing that, and how much fun is it? Because I've commented on like UFC video game live streams, and I've always enjoyed it. So it must be great doing it in person and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I've been doing it for a little over a year now, but I think I've done 10 or 11 shows. I'll be there next week, I believe. I fly like April 5th to do the April 7th show. So it's something that it's just been so beneficial for me to be able to go out there and speak with the fighters, also get time on camera, which, helps you as a fighter promoting yourself with your brand, and also seeing what other fighters are doing because I get to speak to them before after they weigh in. I get to speak to them and see how their training goes, see things that they see in their opponent. So being able to speak to so many different fighters and see their motivation as well when they before they step in there is pretty awesome because it kind of fills you with motivation. It makes you want to go back to training and try things and just be the best version of yourself you can be.
And I know through Aries, you kind of have a friendship with the French heavyweight Cyril Gane, right? Coming off his loss this month, where do you think he goes from here? And have you talked to him maybe about where his mindset is and what he's doing to fill the maybe gap in his ability in the ground game?
Yeah, I mean, Cyril's quite a tricky one, man, because he's such a phenomenal athlete, but he really
Uh,
hasn't been doing this for that long. And then
no.
he just got thrown in there with somebody who's, you know, probably the best fighter the sport's like seen. It's incredible not only how he is as a fighter, but the improvements that he makes on
Yeah.
from one fight to the next. So I mean, he's still really young in his career, and it's just about improving. And he's just the type of person that loves being in the gym and that loves learning, and he picks things up so quickly. So I just think, it's unfortunate because you'd say, oh, his grappling's bad, and she's like, yeah, is what's if you compare it to John Jones,
Yeah.
probably, but it's good enough for the majority of other people in the division. But when it comes down to it, they just see who your last fight was and if you lost or if you won. And I just don't think that's a good indicator of what his grappling is like
No.
because John Jones could probably do that to a lot of people in the division.
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen Cyril. I believe it was his debut. He won with a leg lock submission, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm interested in what his timeline is going to be for returning. You mentioned the Paris card. I'm guessing that will probably be his next fight. Do you know if they're looking at one specific opponent, maybe?
I don't know because like I haven't been down to France yet. I took two I missed two shows because of training, so I'll be back down there next week. So I don't know. I haven't personally spoken to Cyril. I hope he's on the Paris card. It would be great to share a card with him again. He just brings so much energy to the room, to the atmosphere. So that would be awesome. Hopefully we have Nasruddin Ivamov as well, who's
Yeah.
also part of the MMA Factory team. We have William Gomez, who fought in Aries and fought in the last Paris card, and he did great. He won his fight as well. So hopefully, like that team, that MMA Factory team, will be present in the Octagon.
And I want to talk a little bit about the PFL card coming up, right? Obviously, Dan taking the new position of now it's a bit of a mouthful, PFL Europe Director of Fighter Operations, right? And I'm very excited for this card. What can you tell us about this card and the expansion of the PFL to Europe? Because I'm someone who lives in Europe as well, and so I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, I mean it's great. They're going to be doing four shows this year, and they're bringing in new weight categories, and then they're having the final in Dublin, and the winner of that gets 100,000 pounds. So, I mean that's some serious money,
Yeah.
especially when you're used to like shows here that in Europe you'll probably get 500 and 500 or 1,000, like two max. The payment rise that is coming thanks to the PFL is great, but also they're just expanding opportunities for fighters that like the European market has been a little bit let down. There's not been a lot of shows that
Yeah.
have come here, a lot of big shows that have given these fighters the opportunity. And man, you go to any gym up and down the country and in Europe, and the skill and the talent is here. You just need the opportunity to go and show that. And I'm very happy that the PFL are here. I'm very happy that they're giving all these fighters the opportunity, like publicly, financially. It's great to have the PFL here, and I can't think of a better person. And I don't say this because we're together or anything. I've always thought very, very highly of Dan. Like I've admired him as a person, as a fighter, as an analyst, and his love for the sport. To be able to have somebody like that would work
Yeah.
day and night, come up with ideas on things to help the fighters feel more at welcome, the fighters to feel comfortable, and especially during like fight week where it's just very stressful for the fighters and there's media and other things involved. It's good to have somebody who's been in that situation that can think about what you're going through and how to accommodate that more so it runs smoothly, both for everybody in the production team and the sponsors and everybody involved, but also for the fighters because it's important for the fighters to feel good, to feel welcome, to feel like as like they're the stars of the show because at the end of the day that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I want to ask as well with his position, maybe it's a little unclear for some people what exactly he's doing because we've seen him, I believe he was doing the face-offs at the rugby stadium today and things. So what is his exact role like on fight day and during fight week?
Well, for this show, the thing is a lot of the roster has already been made. So
Yeah.
his position will come more into play it with next year when he can start recruiting and bringing in fighters. But that's going to be majority of his job, right? Recruiting fighters, seeing the tweaks that can make PFL just better every single time, making it more comfortable for the fighters, making sure the managers and the coaches are happy, and just improving PFL as a whole. He'll be commentating for this PFL show. He'll be in the face-offs, sorry, in the weigh-ins in the morning, making sure that everything's going through commission and everything's clear with the fighters, and also at the ceremonial weigh-ins. So just playing a big role in bringing like PFL to Europe in a smooth transition.
And do you think with PFL expanding to Europe, and now you can see the UFC, they've come to France. I believe Ariel Helwani just announced that might be coming to Sweden later this year. Do you think these big MMA promotions are looking at expanding big time in Europe? Because, like, in my experience, I live here in Germany, and it's growing so much. I'll be on the tram or on the bus, and I'll hear someone talking about Leon Edwards. I'm like, did I hear that right, or am I listening to my podcast too loud? So, do you think we will see more and more European shows as the year goes on and next year?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's so much good talent that you can have a big show every weekend, and you'll still need more. Like you said, it's growing so much, and especially it's also good for the sport. For example, that Leon Edwards just won because he's not training in America. He's like a European fighter training and fighting out of Europe and has the belt. So it will help the expansion of Europe a lot more, just because I feel like for the past few years it's just gone down so much. And like the tickets sell out super quick, and there's not really many events, and I hope they come back a lot more frequent than they actually are currently, because the fighters are working hard and they deserve the opportunity.
Well, I think someone told me the other day they're looking at coming back to the UK in July, like they did last year as well. And I'm just praying every day that they announce a Germany show, because I want to go to a UFC event. I've been to Bellator in Italy, and I'm looking at that PFL Berlin card. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get credentialed for that one. But it's so good, and I think as you said, like, the European talent is so impressive. Not just the French talent, but being here, I can see the talent that is coming out of the gyms. Like in Frankfurt, the MMA Spirit Gym, they have a lot of talent. So I'm very interested to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I lived in Germany for a while, so I know very well the team you're talking about over in Cologne. They have great I'm sorry if I said that wrong as well.
No,
but they have like
in English,
great
it's right.
grappling.
So
oh, okay, there we go. They have great grappling. They have good MMA teams, and you're seeing it. There's this other team that's really good that has that fighter Abus. And he fought in the Paris card. I was just looking at it.
In Düsseldorf.
That's the one.
I think Soldic, who fights at one championship, also trains out of that gym. Yeah, I got to try and go up to that gym at some point.
Yeah, it looks absolutely great, and there's Spitfire MMA as well.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of gyms, and there's a lot of athletes, there's a lot of talent. They just need the shows.
Yeah. Well, I believe there was a UFC gym opened in Sao Paulo, which is up north. So that's interesting that the UFC is actually probably looking at Germany. But I know this is a UK YouTube channel, but yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for that. But getting back to you, I noticed on your Instagram, you're a Nottingham Forest fan, right?
I am a Nottingham Forest fan.
How long have you been a fan of this team?
Well, I would say like about a year or so. My father and mother-in-law they're season ticket holders, so they go all the time to every event. And on one of them, my father-in-law invited me to go with them, and it was just such a great experience.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. We got there really early. We went to a working man's kitchen, and we had a pizza with a hot dog in the middle. It was so good. It was just so good.
It just sounds gross, but it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I put a little bit of mustard, and I was just like, "Is this the correct thing to do?" But it was awesome. and he like makes the dough from scratch and everything. So, but the atmosphere is incredible. It's
It
just
is.
when everyone's chanting at the same time and you have a sold out like stadium, it's awesome. It's awesome. There's just nothing like it. I can't imagine what it must feel like to be one of those players and just look up and see the amount of love and support and everybody wearing the jersey. It's very, very unique.
Now, actually, I know Nottingham Forest season isn't going too great, but are you having fun watching the game still? Like, I know they're 16th place, but I'm a Liverpool fan and we're awful too. So, are you
Yeah,
enjoying
but
getting into football?
it absolutely. I mean, it's never fun to lose,
No,
but it's just awesome what they're doing.
it is. Yeah,
Win
it's
or
a lot of
lose,
fun.
like it's amazing that what they're doing. They're in the Premier League now that they haven't been for what was it, like 20 years or
Yeah,
something.
something like that. Yeah.
So just that, man, in comparison to the amount of money every other team has, like I feel like they're doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I think sport in general is growing, right? The NFL is coming to Europe as well. I know I keep going back to the Europe point, but I think the sport in general is getting so big. It's getting bigger than movies and TV shows. Do you think that as well?
Well, I feel like sort of with what do you call it, with the pandemic and like
Yeah.
the UFC coming and taking over while everything else stopped. I think that has actually helped sports views. But I mean, a good movie is always a good movie.
You're not wrong. Um,
It's hard to compete, especially with like Marvel and they have superpowers and stuff. I'm just
yeah.
like,
Well, let me ask you then, what's your favorite movie?
my favorite movie. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like I love superhero movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but favorite. I can't tell you now. What did I do? Sorry.
No, you're still up, so it's all good. Um,
Okay.
well, then you mentioned the Marvel. Do you have like maybe top three favorite set of Marvel movies? I don't know if I went to see the new Ant-Man the other week, so do
Oh,
you
how
have
was
a
it? Was
set?
it good?
Have you seen it or?
No, I haven't. I was looking at movie theaters around here because then, like sometimes Dan has to do a bunch of work and I'm just in the
Yeah,
hotel room. So I was like, I'll go to a movie.
yeah.
And I saw that man was on it, but
I enjoyed it. I think it's more so that like I didn't take it seriously. I was like, I'm just gonna go in, have a good time. I went with my little brother, so we just went in and we're like low expectations. Let's just have fun.
yeah. Well, in the start of the pandemic, well, we're like mid-pandemic, we decided to watch the Marvel movies all in order. So
All
that
right.
was great. I love Loki. I think he's
Mm.
awesome. The
Yeah, me
the
too. Yeah.
series that he had was really cool. Yeah, I think he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, there's so many movies and TV shows, and sometimes, like, especially with the Disney Plus TV shows, I lose track of them. And then they'll have like a scene in a movie or reference something. I was like, who's that character? Where did he come from?
Yeah. But the good thing is there's so many websites that if you look it up, they'll give you like a
Yeah,
whole layout of who that
exactly.
character is and where he showed up. So I do use that sometimes.
Yeah, I totally get that. Oh, before I let you go, if you want to announce anything, any sponsors or anything that you would like to give a special thank you to, or your social media, merchandise, anything, here's your platform.
Just thank you to everybody that helped me out in the camp. Jack and Joe Young, everybody at GB Top Team. The girls there, they're incredible. The coaches, Ashton, Brad, thank you so much. And of course, Paul Reed, who helped me with the nutrition. And, he's just a big part in helping the sport in general with all his weight cutting. I wouldn't say thank you to Dan because I've said thank you to him too many times. Don't want him to get big headed.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this show, and have a great day.